Hey guys, thank you for watching the Slat Rock channel, and today we present you with the top 23 underrated wrestlers who deserve respect. Number 23, the Dynamite Kid. If you're a 70s or early 80s kid, you're probably a fan of the Dynamite Kid. Such was the craze of this star. He was perhaps the greatest pure wrestler to come out of Stu Hart's Stampede promotion. Dynamite Kid's career saw peaks while in WWE when he teamed with longtime friend Davey Boy Smith. They were collectively known as the British Bulldogs. They would have an epic but underrated feud with the Hart Foundation that featured some unforgettable matches. Unfortunately, Dynamite Kid suffered back injuries quite often, which prevented him from great heights. After leaving WWE, Kid would never be quite the same again, and though he wrestled in Canada and the UK for a while, his ability was clearly beginning to fade, and he was forced to retire in 1991 at the age of just 32 years. His legacy and influence on the business has been remarkable. Because of his early retirement and fairly brief tenure in WWE, Dynamite Kid has almost been forgotten. Bret Hart called Kid the greatest wrestler he ever saw, and there's no greater compliment than that. Number 22, Ultimo Dragon. Ultimo Dragon was one of the biggest names in the world of professional wrestling, but surprisingly, promotions like WWE and WCW never thought of him as being a top guy. He was always booked as a mid-card guy, but he had attributes of a main eventer. Ultimo Dragon delivered some jaw-dropping performances as he pulled off some seriously incredible moves over the course of his career. He's wrestled famous names like Rey Mysterio, Psychosis, Eddie Guerrero, and Chris Jericho. It's a shame that overrated guys such as Lex Luger got promoted more than Ultimo Dragon, who really did deserve to be a main eventer. Not being utilized enough in North America, he spent most of his time overseas. Ultimo was more valued by promotions around the world who saw his potential. On every account, Ultimo Dragon is an underrated wrestler because he really did deserve to win more championships while he was in North America. Number 21, Jake the Snake Roberts. Jake Roberts had it all. He was one of the most charismatic men of the Hulkamania period and would always be present in featured matches or feuds. Who doesn't remember his matches with Andre the Giant and Macho Man Randy Savage? Unfortunately, Jake also suffered from a lot of substance abuse problems. There came a point where WWE just couldn't trust him anymore, and without that trust, there was no way he was going to succeed. The story of Jake Roberts has a happy ending at least. He cleaned himself up with the help of Diamond Dallas Page and was welcomed back into the WWE with a spot on Raw and a place in the WWE Hall of Fame. Number 20, Rick Rude. Guys, what more can you ask for when you have 1. A great looking persona, 2. A great body, and 3. A great manager in the form of Bobby the Brain Heenan? It's a big shame that Rick never became a WWE or WCW World Champion. His swagger and a natural machismo style made him one of WWE's top heels at the time. He had some unbelievable matches with the Ultimate Warrior, Roddy Piper, Sting, and Mr. Perfect. Rick's greatest achievement came when he became the Intercontinental Champion at Wrestlemania 5, defeating the Ultimate Warrior before leaving the company in 1990. Rude would later come back to the WWE in 1997 as an original member of D-Generation X. Rude was injured during his match against Sting and had to quit wrestling. Rude wouldn't last long in WWE as he quickly left to go to WCW and join the NWO. This was the biggest shock to Vince and a great turning point in the Monday Night Wars. Don't judge Rick or his career because of that one night during the Monday Night Wars. Rick, for me, is one of the most underrated and underappreciated wrestlers of all time. Number 19, Arn Anderson. He is one of the most legitimate badasses in the world of professional wrestling. He was genuinely feared and respected by one and all. He was known as the enforcer of the Four Horsemen, and is remembered today as the right-hand man of the Nature Boy Ric Flair. It's very hard to imagine that somebody with a stature like Arn hasn't won a world championship. He will be greatly remembered for his feuds with Dusty Rhodes and winning the tag team gold with Tully Blanchard. Anderson was a good worker who could also cut an intense promo. The Enforcer is in the WWE Hall of Fame as a member of the Four Horsemen, but unfortunately he'll never get his just due as a singles competitor, and that is very unfortunate. Number 18, Cesaro. The Swiss Superman Cesaro is someone who earned the love and support of the fans worldwide before stepping foot into WWE. He's a physical powerhouse that can lift anyone that you throw at him. His incredible physical presence and in-ring talent are the major reasons he was pushed so heavily when he came in. He was even a Paul Heyman guy for a brief period of time. Unfortunately, he's not equally skilled on the mic. While the fans are willing to look past his charisma problem, the company is not. This was confirmed for fans during the now infamous Stone Cold podcast with Vince McMahon, where Vince said that Cesaro, being Swiss, will never connect with the fans. The fans heavily disagree, but when has Vince ever listened to them? Guys, Cesaro was named the most underrated wrestler of 2013, 2014, and 2015 by the Wrestling Observer. Number 17, the British Bulldog. Great look? Check. Great body? Check. Charisma? Check. The late, great Davey Boy Smith had everything Vince always wanted in a main eventer. Vince decided to split the tag team of the Dynamite Kid and Davey Boy Smith, and Smith was thrown into the upper mid-card as the British Bulldog. He had some great feuds with Vader, Bam Bigelow, and most notably, Bret Hart. Yes guys, the very famous match at SummerSlam 1992, where Bret dropped the Intercontinental Championship to the Bulldog. Pro Wrestling Illustrated called it the match of the year for 1992. Unfortunately, his internal demons got the better of him, which contributed to his decline. However, that won't tarnish his legacy, as he's considered one of the top WWE superstars of the 90s. The British Bulldog is unquestionably underrated, underappreciated, and very well missed. Number 16, Wade Barrett. Barrett got off to a strong start as the leader of the rookie group, The Nexus. Feuding with main event stars such as John Cena, Barrett got some big wins, even if they were tainted by some outside interference. After the Nexus angle ran its course, Barrett seemed ready for championships like the Intercontinental and US Championship. Still, something seemed missing. A shoulder injury in June 2014 saw Barrett sidelined until December 2014. A run as Bad News Barrett proved popular with the fans due to his catchphrase, "I'm afraid I've got some bad news." Unfortunately, management told him to turn it down, according to PW Insider. Yet another sign that WWE likes to ignore its fans. Barrett had plenty of championship runs, but never won the big one. In 2015, he won the King of the Ring tournament, which meant nothing in terms of his career. Instead, he feuded with R-Truth before teaming with Stardust against Neville and Arrow star Stephen Amell at 2015's SummerSlam. There seemed to be hope when Barrett was put into the League of Nations faction, but that too went nowhere. Despite good ring skills and promos, he was released in May 2016, another example of WWE creative being an oxymoron. Number 15, Owen Hart. Guys, not only was Owen a better heel than Bret, I think it's fair to say that Owen was probably the better mic guy in the entire Hart family. But why didn't WWF put the title on him in 1994 and make the feud of the year even better? Only Vinnie Mac knows the answer to this. In an ideal world, Bret would have been chasing the title in Owen's hands leading up to their cage match at SummerSlam 94. Just to illustrate, we all know that Owen could wrestle with almost anyone at any time and any place. Yet during his run in WWF, Bob Backlund, Diesel, Sid, and even Vince McMahon held the title. None of these men appealed to anyone as champion, yet they were put over because they were big. Number 14, Billy Kidman. Billy Kidman is in the league of those extraordinary gentlemen who are great in-ring technicians. He made his mark in WCW and held the Cruiserweight title on several occasions. He was even thrown into a feature feud with Hulk Hogan, yes, that Hulk Hogan, near the end of WCW's run. While Kidman didn't have great talking skills, his in-ring work did all of the necessary talking. WWE brought Kidman in, and once again he was featured as a cruiserweight, but he was heavily underutilized. Billy Kidman was a super talented worker but could fall victims to Hogan, Russo, and McMahon's booking. One of Kidman's greatest matches would be against Jamie Noble at Survivor Series 2002. This is an all-time classic. Kidman struggled around the mid-card for the majority of his career while other small men were at least in the world title scene. Yet another supreme wrestler who was underutilized and was underrated. Number 13, John Morrison. It would take someone from the Palace of Wisdom to figure out what went wrong with the Shaman of Sexy's WWE career. John Morrison seemed set for a slow but steady build-up. After working in the successful tag team M&M, where he worked as Johnny Nitro alongside Joey Mercury, he transitioned into singles action, winning the Intercontinental Championship. A move to ECW could have been a career killer, but Nitro transformed into John Morrison, a Jim Morrison-like guru with bizarre but appealing catchphrases. After winning the ECW title, he feuded with CM Punk in a celebrated program. From there, he teamed with The Miz, winning the WWE Tag Team Championship. After the team split, things just never seemed to click for Morrison. He's had championship reigns and well-received matches, but never got a sustained shot on top. In 2011, Morrison's contract ended and he took time off from wrestling to heal injuries. Since then, he's had considerable success in Lucha Underground and the AAA promotion. Number 12, Christian. It's hard to believe that Captain Charisma, Christian, has been in the business for nearly 2 decades. He's held many championships in NWA, ECW, and WWE, but was never given his due in WWE. He is one of the greatest heels and is considered one of the best workers in the business. He sacrificed his life to entertain the wrestling fans. Edge and Christian were both successful in realizing their dream and formed a tag team during the Attitude Era and have been heralded as one of the greatest tag teams of all time. They were known as the innovators of TLC matches and cemented their place in the history books. During the early 2000s, both Christian and Edge concentrated on singles action. Christian immediately became one of the best heels in the company. His feuds with the likes of Chris Jericho received praise from the wrestling fans. He's a great singles performer, but is often overshadowed because of his successful tag team run with Edge. Number 11, Bam Bigelow. Bam Bam was perhaps the most agile big man in pro wrestling. Very few wrestlers his size could move like he did. Bigelow may have main evented WrestleMania 11 and won gold in NWA, WCW, and ECW, and even New Japan, but he never earned much success at all in WWE. In fact, the only gold he ever won in WWE was actually a Slammy Award. Number 10, Goldust. Dustin Runnels started wrestling at a very young age and has had a long career. He's always been good in the ring and keeping his gimmick of Goldust relevant, but he's always been seen as a comedy character, and they rarely win the big matches, or even enter them. Number 9, Tazz. It's Tazz! Tazz, who was the original mayor of Suplex City and was treated as a god in ECW. He was seen as someone who could beat anyone, and actually did beat Kurt Angle in his debut. Unfortunately, Tazz was always seen as just a little too small to break through that glass ceiling. Number 8, Raven. Raven was a weird dude who was amazing on the mic and pretty good in the ring too. While he might be remembered as just a hardcore ECW guy who was only good with weapons, there was more to him than that. He's won gold in almost every major US promotion, but most will just see him as nothing more than the hardcore equivalent of a spot monkey. Number 7, Shelton Benjamin. Shelton is so underrated that he's been named Wrestling Observer's most underrated wrestler 3 times. Shelton's got a legit background in amateur wrestling that he used to create a realistic style. Benjamin may have been Intercontinental Champion, but his time with WWE was just way too short. Number 6, Lance Storm. If I can be serious for a moment, Lance is remembered as being an excellent in-ring technician who was great to watch. He was an entertaining heel, but he never got the push he deserved for whatever reason. He was always incredible in the ring though, and will be forever remembered as someone who could be, and should be, more than he was. Number 5, Dean Malenko. Dean Malenko is the man of 1,000 holds and an incredible technician in the ring. He may not have been the most intimidating thanks to his small stature, but he always delivered in his matches. He was seen as a cruiserweight and had great matches with some of the best in the business, including Chris Jericho and Chris Benoit. Unfortunately, Malenko lacked charisma as well as size. He could have been more if he was better on the stick. Number 4, Mr. Perfect. The name Mr. Perfect is a fairly apt description of Curt Hennig. He was an all-around fantastic performer. He was perfect in and out of the ring, but never won the WWE Championship. He was able to have a great match with anyone, and his promos were always entertaining. It's a real shame that the only major success he had was becoming a 2-time Intercontinental Champion. Number 3, Flyin' Brian Pillman. Pillman was a wild man who paved the way for the cruiserweight division with his athletic antics. He also changed the way people delivered promos by introducing the concept of worked shoots. Unfortunately, he had suffered from injuries and substance abuse by the time he made it to the big time. He was only in the WWE for 1 year, but he made it a memorable one. He's remembered for kicking off the Attitude Era almost literally with a bang by pulling a gun on Steve Austin. Number 2, Steve Blackman. 6-time WWF Hardcore Champion Steve Blackman is one of the most elite wrestlers with a martial arts background. Not many of you know that Steve actually made his WWF debut in 1988. However, he became well known during the Attitude Era when he made an impressive debut on the November 3rd, 1997 episode of Raw, when he jumped the guardrail to help Vader fend off an attack from the Hart Foundation. Blackman was given a martial arts gimmick and named the Lethal Weapon Steve Blackman. Blackman was undefeated for close to a year after his debut, and during this time he established his trademark entrance involving swinging glow-in-the-dark Eskrima sticks. He had great angles with the Nation of Domination, Owen Hart, Mick Foley, and even Vince McMahon. His in-ring ability was good, courtesy of his martial arts. He's even considered one of the strongest guys, of course next to Haku. Steve is greatly remembered for his feud that saw Shane McMahon take a dive off the SummerSlam scaffolding. However, shortly after, Blackman was reduced to a comedic role alongside Al Snow. Number 1 is William Regal. In his career, Regal has won 16 championships across WWE and WCW, but he's always been underrated. He had great in-ring psychology and always delivered good promos. One infamous moment in Regal's career is that he is part of Vince McMahon's Kiss My Ass Club. Regal is now the general manager of NXT. He's never won the WWE Championship, but he is partly to blame for this, and he will tell you as much himself. He suffered from problems like substance abuse for most of his career. He now helps ensure younger talent don't repeat his mistakes. Guys, thank you for watching this video. Let us know if you think anybody else is underrated should be on this list. Let us know if you think we're right on. Drop a comment right below. Don't forget, if you like this video, you can subscribe and get more just like this. And you can follow us on Facebook,